What's up, Google Maps? This is Matthew Lindeman. Flight 3,500 miles across the country, working on 6,500 in 2.5 years. That said, I've got some feedback for you. Biking and bicycle routes are suggested. The width of the shoulder should come into play. An example is if this shoulder gets narrow up ahead, it'd be nice if maps would talk to us and say in 600 feet, your shoulder will narrow, giving us time to turn around and check our traffic as we're going down the road here on the shoulder. This is especially important when we were in Highway 200 coming down towards Missoula in Montana. The road was just as busy as this, one lane, way more narrow. And it would be nice to know that during our routes, how narrow the sides of the shoulders are, because the speed limits out here are 70, 80 miles an hour, even in the middle of nowhere. Another useful piece of information to know is the elevation of our bicycle route. In 2 miles, you will climb 1,300 feet over a distance of 1.2 miles. There is a water sprinkler ahead to get some water at. Those types of notifications for bicyclers would be very helpful. Also, the ability to set long range on maps and have it save your trip as you go. A lot of times you got to get up and kind of restart your maps or whatever, but it would be nice to have like let's say you can set a 90-day timer for the map that you have open. And so it'll save that data, because if you get to spots where you don't have any data and it's not like a car, and sometimes it'll take you a day or two to get to the next signal to reboot your directions and your navigation. You can download it offline, I understand that, but the ability to just hit resume would be wonderful when you reboot the app, and just have it ask you, would you like to resume your trip, especially for bicycle routes and everything. So that's the current feedback I have for you at the moment. Oh, elevations and altitudes along our route would be nice to have. More bicycle information like rest stops, camping, and so forth. I think that the bicycle overlay could really use more information for cyclists. And using Google AI to tell us additional information. And if you have I don't know if it exists, I genuinely don't know. If there's like a Google Watch I can wear in my hand to coincide with my bicycle data, or even partnering with other companies to have this data available within the Google Maps itself. I think some of those partnerships could really be valuable for bicyclists. Maybe even a bicycle feedback hub, like, you know how I can go into a restaurant and submit a Google review? Maybe that would be helpful for bicyclists as well, to submit feedback. Like, let's say we go over Lolo Pass in Montana, and other bicyclists have already done it. Some feedback on that would be really helpful within the Google platform as we're choosing our routes that Google is providing. A partnership that should exist for mapping is Adventure Cycling in Montana. I believe it's the one who created the US maps that we have available now for bicyclists across the country. Getting this information overlaid into the Google database system for bicyclers could be really helpful as well, because some of the routes that Google has, we kind of weave in and out of those trails, but they should be implemented inside of Google. So I don't know if you can set up a partnership or not, but you should.
An example is when you zoom in, you can see the altitudes, but when I zoom out, it's not as detailed. And so if I zoom in, it would be nice to see the specific altitudes along the roads. And right now it doesn't, and so the letters should be a lot bigger and more prominent, because you have to zoom way in. I have no signal, so forgive me, so it's hard to do this. So something else that also comes to mind is the state crossing lines are not defined in the different types. So even in this one, let's see, where the heck is it? I think that's it right there. Yeah, so you have to be this close to see the state lines. That doesn't work. So Google should have a toggle switch and additional changes that the users can make, like the color of the lines and so forth. More editing ability to Google Maps for a case-by-case basis. It also would be incredibly nice if I could tap this guy and edit. I'm offline right now, so I can't edit it, but I don't know why Google engineers don't allow you to add 600 different icons of your choosing, or even create your own icons within the platform. It'd be really nice to individualize these icons, because I have a million of them. I've been tracking my trip of specific spots I'm sleeping at. I know that if I go into maps, I can see this entire trip in my timeline, but I'm doing this. And so here's some other trips, like all these saved places. I would love to have different customizable icons. You can do this, but you have to go and create an entire separate map. I just want it in the main platform. I don't understand why it has to be separate to incorporate, because I know that companies use the maps, like let's say there's a Dollar Tree map and it shows every Dollar Tree in the country, but that's not my use case. My use case is an individualized use basis. I just really believe that Google is underutilizing overlayments and underutilizing people's ability to make maps even better. There's a lot of use case restrictions on an individual user basis. Right now they have an API system set up where you can go in and create a custom map, but it needs to be in the actual system as is, just like this, instead of a whole separate thing. Because I'm not creating a map to put on my website, I'm creating a map for everyday use case. And I think that's the difference. Is the API in that ideology is created for businesses. I'm not a business, I'm an individual user, and the individual user is not being considered when it comes to overlayments to the fullest extent. I think there's a lot of potential for improvement. So something else that comes to mind, again, I don't have signal, so please forgive me, but let's say I put this location in directions. The bicycle features and ability, like this should have a drop, the bicycle thing should have a drop down menu that gives you a bunch of bicycle options for overlayments and so forth. So you have the typical terrain overlayment here on the right, but this should be geared more towards bicycling. So for example, each of these individual icons should go and expand into their own categories. So for bicycling, I should be able to go in and choose and customize different add-ons and things like that. So I know, in, for example, like with Google Docs and Sheets and so forth, you can add add-ons to your individual thing, and so this would be useful because bicycle shops could contribute, people could contribute to the betterment of Google Maps in this capacity as well. Alright Google, I hope this helps and it's positive feedback for you. Take care, don't forget to subscribe.